To celebrate Navarro joining the band, the Peppers all bought new Harleys and headed off to Hawaii to hang out and write new songs.
We shipped our bikes to Hawaii and all our instruments, and basically spent a month to 2 months riding around the island, getting to know each other, which was really important.
It may have sounded idyllic, but almost as soon as the Harleys rolled out of the packing crates, there were problems. For starters, lead singer Anthony Kiedis was back to using heroin.
You know, I remember being out in Hawaii, getting ready to write with those guys, and Anthony was just gone, like, didn't show up.
And weeks later, when they got back to LA, things only got worse.
Anthony was, you know, a different kind of addict. You know, he would lock himself up in a hotel and disappear for weeks on end. Anthony wasn't like, let's go to the Four Seasons and get high. He would be in some, like, up downtown, grungy, Fleabag hotel.
In July of 1994, when the band got together to record their next album, they were not in a good place, mentally or emotionally.
For me, it's a very dark album, you know, and I say that to people sometimes and they don't think that it's a dark album. For me, you know, making an album, I was the time leading up to the album making, I was very sad. And making the album, I was kind of sad too, you know.
It would be a lot easier story if it were then they lived happily ever after and everything was great from there, but of course it wasn't. And they still had the same demons.
The record started slowly coming together, but things were not gelling like they had on the last two albums.
I think the guys at the time really missed John because they'd seen how the band had just blossomed on Blood Sugar Sex Magic creatively.
One Hot Minute, finally finished, finally done, and about to be released. Relieved?
I feel like it's...
But I think that all of us were feeling the pressure at the time, and it was, you know, it was really difficult because here I am coming from a totally different musical place. These guys have to follow up their biggest record ever. You know, our singer is in and out of working with us.
Not a well-received record. It was not a very successful record. It was not a record they were very proud of.
And when the band hit the road to promote it, the fans were not afraid to show their disapproval of the new lineup.
I remember being at shows and playing and looking out at the audience, and people would have signs like, "Where's John?" and they're yelling at me like, "Bring back John." And I'm like, dude, don't get mad at me. I mean, they would get mad at me.
I was wondering if you made the right decision in joining the Beatles.
No, of course I made the right choice. I've made, you know, the best friends that I've ever had in my life, and I also had an opportunity to play some great music.
Now, Chad.
Wow. That's a nice thing to say.
That's a nice answer.
You know what I mean, Dave?
I know.
You know where I'm heading?
I know what you're saying, and I agree.
Do you agree with me? That the band was kind of like his underground following, and you know, it was kind of eking along and making records and stuff. And then as soon as I joined,
Look what happened to him.
huge.
Big
Critical, commercial success, money,
acclaim.
respect, you know, musos, other and so.
Yeah, you probably don't want to say it because you're not
I would
comfortable.
not.
I'll say it.
I don't feel comfortable saying it. If you wanna, I'm not gonna
Chad's
argue
been
with you.
Single-handedly responsible for the success of this rock band.
So,
Thank you, Chad.
Chad.
Did you know that?
what?
Your wrist got
I was
broken.
linked to.
You were linked to an arm brace.
I was linked to an arm breaking.
I won't link you to anyone else if you like.
No, we would love linkage.
I love to be linked.
Okay.
I like sausage links, actually.
Right.
Not chain links.
Chain links.
Right here. See, that's.
Yeah.
I like chain
kind
letters.
of ties in to
Look,
what we were
look,
talking
and then look
about.
at here. Look at the link here. See,
See?
how that way? See?
Yeah, see, that's his link. To
I'm
the
actually
Chili Peppers.
linkless tonight, so
I'm our link letters.
my dad like.
Somber, sweet and sour chain, and music is my aeroplane. It's my aeroplane. Pleasure spiked with pain.
Our next guests are, of course, famous for getting naked at the drop of a hat, and they're best known as one of rock and roll's premier bands. This is their new CD right here. It's called One Hot Minute. Ladies and gentlemen, LA's own Red Hot Chili Peppers.
My friends are so depressed. I feel the question of your loneliness. Confide, 'cause I'll be on your side. You know I will. You know I will.
Song My Friends is, Anthony wrote the words for it. It's a song that I can definitely relate to. And it's basically just about you're looking around you and seeing a lot of sadness and despair and knowing that the only thing that matters and the only thing that can fix things and the only thing that really is important is love.
When I joined the band, I couldn't believe that they, like, wanted to be this other thing than they were, you know? Like, they didn't think, like, I thought of them as huge stars, you know? But to them, they weren't famous yet, you know, and they hadn't made it yet, and they wanted to be as big as Aerosmith or whatever, you know? And I couldn't, like, that was a shock, yeah. To a disaster, girl, the strong hoped that we would stay at the level that we were at in popularity. So the real shock came when I found out that this record that we had been recording, this music that me and Flea had just gone nuts over for, you know, a few months, was actually going to be in record stores, and there would be a bunch of people going and buying it and then putting it on and listening to that music that we made. It had never occurred to me, literally. I'm serious.
Wondering about the David Bowie Black Book? What's that? You read that too?
Yeah, and well, I just look at the pictures. I don't read it. I've just always loved looking at pictures of David Bowie.
Why did you...
That's him and Iggy Pop.
All right. Uh-huh. It's a nice one.
They think something's funny. I just thought David Bowie did his coolest stuff when he was on a lot of coke, and that stuff and that feeling and that image is just the whole reason I got into rock and roll in the first place. Like, bisexuality and drugs were the two things in life that I related to rock and roll in my overall image of it when I was 9 or 10 years old, when I got into punk rock.
Know the crimes that's sticking through. Unfastened belts on your heart.
Have you never wondered about this drugs thing, what it is in people, or in somebody like you or others, there's many others, that they have to add this something to their body that changes them and alters them?
Well, every second alters you. Every single thing you've ever seen alters you.
Yeah.
Everything you eat alters you.
Okay, but that's an extreme way of altering yourself.
I don't think so. I think a parent yelling at you is an extreme way of altering yourself. I think somebody kicking you in the thighs is your one you look up to as being the role model of masculinity. I think that alters you.
Okay, but now you just said you're shooting up, you're using heroin. I mean, what about that? That's something pretty heavy, isn't it?
People say so. I don't know what that means, really. Like, I don't think of it as being any sort of naughty thing or anything.
What does it mean to you?
It's just a way of making sure you stay in touch with beauty instead of letting the ugliness of the world corrupt your soul. What's smart is being able to trip out, you know? That's using more parts of your brain. That's your subconscious at work. That's lining up thoughts and doing really intense things to your whole existence.